Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In today's video, we are going to continue to build around our 5th Oathbreaker and our 5th Oathbreaker signature spell, both of which were chosen by the MTG Burgeoning community. And just to remind you, that was Oko, Thief of Crowns, and the signature spell of Simic Charm. What's up, MTG BC? That is the MTG Burgeoning community. We are back again as we move one step closer to completing the channel's 5th Oathbreaker deck. This time it's a Simic Disruption build featuring Oko and Simic Charm, both choices made by the MTG BC, and of course the BC is the Burgeoning community. So far, these are the cards included in the deck. As we did the last time we met, we have a copy of Oathbreaker, Turn to Frog, Kasmina's Transmutation, Frogify, Kenrith's Transformation, Imprisoned in the Moon, Ichthyomorphosis, Polymorphist's Jest. That was the number of spells that we're using to change the power and toughness and the loss of abilities of all creatures that our opponents control, so that we can exchange them with Oko because of his Big Bang ability allowing us to do so. In addition, we have Cryptoplasm, Phyrexian Metamorph, Spark Double, Stunt Double, Clone, Vizier of Many Faces, Altered Ego, Daring Thief, and Willbreaker. And this pile of spells allows us to have clones come into play as copies of our opponent's nerfed creatures, although we get to have the original creature while they're left with something that's 1101 or something just as useless. Alright, so those were the spells we've already included in the deck. So now let's take one step further and finish off the 58 by including a subset of spells that are going to be aimed at strengthening the deck, adding some additional removal and disruption, and a couple of beaters just in case our game plan of exchanging creatures and cloning our nerfed opponent's creatures falls by the wayside. So let's put some more defense into play by throwing in a copy of Fog Bank. It's only 1 and a blue for an 0-2 defender with flying. However, we prevent all combat damage that will be dealt to and dealt by Fog Bank. So what that means is that without any direct removal, we can put Fog Bank out there and block for days without having it die. That's a great creature to have on the battlefield to protect our Oathbreaker, because as soon as we reveal who our Oathbreaker is, let me tell you folks, we're going to become target number 1 at the Oathbreaker table. Alright, so let's shift away from defense and talk about some recursion, and we have Regrowth. 1 in a green, return a card from our graveyard to our hand. It's going to be a great card. We can get one of our spells, one of our creatures, pretty much any one card in our graveyard. Let's regrow it back to our hand. Next up, and this card is included because this is Oathbreaker, and that's going to be 1 copy of Sword of Sinew Steel. The equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and from red. So right there, we're helping to dodge some of the best removal in the format. And whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy up to 1 target Oathbreaker, 1 target Planeswalker, and up to 1 target artifact. So this allows us to kind of destroy our opponent's Oathbreakers in colors that, let's be honest, blue-green, we don't really have a great number of spells to do that, but including Sword of Sinew Steel will help with Oathbreaker removal and the potential of getting rid of some troublesome or problematic artifacts. Next, we're going to include Mimic That, which is going to be a very excellent card for us to play with in this deck. This is an artifact for 3, and then when it ETBs, it has the imprint mechanic, which reads, whenever a non-token creature dies, we may exile it, and if we do, we return each other exile card with Mimic back to its owner's graveyard. So we get to pick amongst the best creature that we already have imprinted on Mimic Bat, or a better creature that goes to the graveyard from play. And when we do, we can tap 3, turn Mimic Vat sideways, and create a token that's a copy of the card exiled with Mimic Vat. It gains haste, and then we can exile at the beginning of the next end step. So we can use this for a quick attack, like a dash attack, or we can sit back and hang back and wait for the need for a blocker if we have opponents that are trying to take out Oko. There's a lot of versatility presented here with Mimic Vat, and that's going to help us to preserve and make the game last long enough to do the twisted and warped things that we want to do with this deck. All right, so next, a couple of the cards that we're about to talk about are included based upon the deck's necessity to have a couple of backup plans just in case what we're trying to do doesn't seem to be working out. And one of those things will be Bioessence Hydra. It's a 4/4 trampling Hydra for 3 and a Simic. And when it ETBs, we put a +1/+1 counter on it for each loyalty counter on planeswalkers we control. Whenever one or more loyalty counters are put on planeswalkers we control, we can put that many +1/+1 counters on Bioessence Hydra. So if we shift this card a little to the right, you can see over there with our Oathbreaker, that to create a food token, it gets 2 loyalty counters. So in the presence of the Bioessence Hydra, suddenly that gets 2 more +1/+1 counters. And without any direct interaction or removal from our opponents, Bioessence Hydra has the potential of becoming very, very big threat to the table. And that's one of the cards that we are including as an alternate win condition, just in case our plan of disrupting all of our opponents goes sideways. With that same idea in mind, we're also going to include a copy of Feasting Troll King. 2 and 4 green for a 7/6 Vigilant Trampler. When it ETBs, if we cast it from our hand, we create 3 food tokens. We can sacrifice those 3 food. We can sacrifice 3 food tokens, of course, and then we can return the Feasting Troll King from the graveyard to the battlefield. But we can only do that during our turn, which is fine, because if we run out of those foods, we can always use Oko's +2 to create some more food so that we can keep bringing the Feasting Troll King back. And if for some reason we want to make sure we get it into our hand, we also have our Simic Charm over there that returns target creature to its owner's hand. Then we can recast it, get the 3 foods. So outside of exile, the Feasting Troll King should be able to stick around long enough to cause a cycle of problems for our opponents, again, if we need to take that route. All right, so let's go back to the disruption and messing with our opponents, because that's really what we want to do with this deck. We're going to include a copy of Pithing Needle. Artifact for 1, when it comes into play, name a card. Activated abilities of the named card can't be played unless they're mana abilities. So we can completely neuter one of our opponent's planeswalkers, particularly if that's causing us all kinds of fits. That's why we're including Pithing Needle, because again, in blue and green, we don't have a ton of destruction spells at our disposal. Going one step further with Pithing Needle, we're going to include Sorcerous Spyglass. We have to double the mana value here, but it might be worth it because of what the abilities of this artifact are. For 2, as it enters the battlefield, we can look at an opponent's hand, then choose any card name. Now, please be careful to note that the card name that's chosen does not have to be in the opponent's hand. We just get to peek into an opponent's hand as an additional ability of the spell, and we can pick any other card name, even that's not in the opponent's hand. And the card name we picked, the activated abilities of that card name can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So really, think of Sorcerous Spyglass as a Pithing Needle that for 1 extra colorless mana, we get to see what's in our opponent's hand. I'll pay that 1 mana every day of the week and 2 times on Friday Night Magic for that kind of information. All right, 3 spells remaining in our disruption-themed episode, and that's going to be Beast Within. I've commented multiple times during this video alone about blue and green's lack of interaction with destroying things. Well, Beast Within allows us to destroy any target permanent, all for the cost of creating a 3/3 green beast creature token, which, let's be honest, if our deck is working the way it should be working, that will be the best creature our opponents control. 1 copy of Beast Within, because we can't play with more. Also included is going to be one of our signature spell options, of which the community did not select as the signature spell, but it will show up in the 58, and that will be Fierce Guardianship. 2 and a blue. If we control our commander, we can cast this without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. This will be a great card to have in our opening hand if we can power Oko out quickly, get him into play, and if any opponent decides to cast a spell targeting Oko for removal, then we can cast a Fierce Guardianship to counter that spell without casting or without tapping any of our mana. All right, and the last card we're going to include in this episode is going to be Force of Vigor. 2 and 2 green. We can destroy up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments. However, if it's not our turn, we may exile a green card from our hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost, and then we can cast this for free, destroying up to 2 target artifacts or enchantments. All right, fans of MTG Burgeoning, that is installment 2 of our Oko Thief of Crowns Oathbreaker deck. We have but 1 episode left as we complete the 58. We will install some mana ramp, some additional spells, and our lands to close out the channel's 5th Oathbreaker deck. Let me know what you think of this build so far in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.